Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to take a look through another batch of vintage Penguin specials. So these are all wartime releases, a lot of them incredibly fragile. So I'm very much looking forward to having a look at these very delicate publications. So sit back, relax, and let's take a look. Okay then, so we're picking up exactly where we left off last time with these. So we've got special number 79. So there it is on the spine, the interment of aliens. Now, as I said, in a lot of cases, these were all wartime publications. I think at the very end, we'll see the start of the second series of Penguin specials, which was a little bit later. But this is going to be through the very hardest years of the war, and 1940 this one's dated. Actually, that's actually not too bad a copy at all of that one, so that one's all right. Europe in Chains, 80. I have got a full set of the Penguin specials now. It took a long time to get, a few decades in fact, to get the last couple that I needed, but I have got them all now. That one's okay, but in a lot of cases they aren't ever so fragile. And there's obviously a few that I'd like to get sort of better copies of. Russia, S81. Yeah, these have needed a good clean for quite a long time, in actual fact. So, happy to be tackling them today. You may hear a little bit of rain in the background, so I hope it's not too off-putting. I know that when I film these videos, even if it is raining, it doesn't really affect the videos too badly, but if it gets really torrential, I'll stop and halt proceedings until the worst of it's gone. So here's a copy of one of the very famous specials, Aircraft Recognition. Now, I'd love to get a few more copies of these because there's lots of variations. This is the very first one from February 1941. And that is actually a really nice copy of that one. That's actually excellent. I mean, a lot of these specials had massive print runs. I'm talking like 250,000 print runs. So even though they were published during the war. Now here's another copy, and I suspect it's a reprint because, yeah, this is the reprint from April 1941. So it's like in effect the second version of it. Very, very worn. This one. It's got a lot of spine roll on it. But this is probably the majority of copies would be in this sort of state, sort of well used. And obviously the idea was that you had the copy of this book, you saw a plane flying over, and by its silhouette you try and identify what that plane was. And in America, the aircraft recognition books were published over there, but they were called What's That Plane? But R.A. Saville Sneed, he was the master of aircraft recognition. Now here's another one. So this is Volume 1 revised. This has got a different cover, and this is a later printing again. Got a name on the front there, L.H. Dilks, February 1944. Different advert on the back. It's thinner, but no less comprehensive. It's even got photographs in, which is super cool. I said I like all the different editions of these. So look at this, printings of the first and second books exceed 1 million copies. This is first published February 41, so it doesn't actually give the revised printing. Oh yeah, here we are. Revised edition of the first book in 1943. Look at that, that's quite nice, isn't it? I know there are about 10 different editions, including the American, and there's a Canadian one as well, believe it or not. I haven't sadly got those. Now this is a much more modern one. It's got a faded spine, you see it's got an ISBN, but I believe this is possibly a 50th anniversary edition of it. It says £5 inside, so we'll get that out in a minute. Facsimile edition published in 1990, which would have been 49 years after the original got published. So I guess it came out for the sort of the 50th birthday. I do remember when I was in a bookshop, as the manager of a bookshop, we had a visit from Penguin's editors. They came down to our shop. I forget what the reason was. They were sort of doing a tour of bookshops, and the woman who was responsible not for this reprint but for the next one we're going to see, she actually came into the shop and I mentioned my love of vintage penguins, and she said, have you got the reprint of Aircraft Recognition? And she was referring to this one. And I said, yes, I have, in actual fact. She said, well, when we did this, we had to go through the original sort of copies of it, and we had to hand colour in all these blacks because the black had sort of faded, apparently. That's what she said. So yeah, this is yet another reprint of the original book. This one, 2006, this reissue. And I believe you can still get this one today. So if you're interested in a bit of aircraft recognition, that's the one you can get hold of very easily. Right, next we've got one of those slightly odd oblong ones, the Europe at War, and this is by the cartoonist Lowe, and he did quite a lot of sort of political cartoons. So it's got like you can hear it like a card cover rather than a paper sleeve, but you might think that these odd format ones are actually quite scarce, but they do seem to turn up, but not always in the greatest of condition. And this one actually isn't bad considering its age now. 1941, I mean, we are talking over 80 years old now. Absolutely crazy, isn't it? But you know, this one's absolutely fine. So, as it's got lots of political cartoons, all war-related ones, and he was very, very popular. So it's low, and that's a really nice one. I'm just seeing there's a tiny little nick at the bottom of the spine there that I think I'm going to put a slither of glue in on while I've got it out. So I've got, since last week, some new Pritt stick. As I said, I usually keep about 5 of these in stock, and we well and truly used up the Pritt stick last week. So I'm just going to slide that one in there like so. And that should be enough to keep that down. Yeah, and it's actually in 2 layers, so I need to do it twice. It was double ply, as it were, so second layer now. I'll do the top bit, just where it's got nicked at some point. There we are, I think that should do. Get rid of any excess. That's fine. Lovely. It's a bit of a odd one, this, because of it being an oblong book, but you don't see many vintage paperbacks in this oblong format, although there are a few. But I think it was more common as a bit of a gimmick in America than over here. Truth About France, S84. This one did get released in French, in actual fact, as L number 1, which I think is Vérité sur la France, which is the French title. And this is the British one. But there were six French penguins during the war. I do have all 6, and they're not amazingly difficult to get. A couple of them are quite tough, but I'll get around to those eventually. Here's another great one. A bit of an unusual departure because it's not like a usual traditional penguin cover, this one. It's got the picture on the front there. Flight to Victory. Now this one has also actually got a bit of spine. Going to need re-gluing there. A patriotic sort of title, this one. So yeah, just a little bit of glue in there, I think will be enough to sort the top of this spine out here. Actually quite stiff, this bit of spine, so squeeze it in there. I think that should be enough. Get rid of any excess. Yeah, that's all right. It looks like it's in spot. It's about as good as it's going to get, in all honesty. Food, the deciding factor, another very scarce one. This wasn't the sort of title that was going to sell stacks and stacks, but you can see, you know, in some of the cases wartime paper rationing has kicked in a little bit, and certain books are getting they just appear much more fragile than the rest of them. It's simply down to what paper was available at the time, I guess. But, you know, generally speaking, during the war, Penguin's paper allowance was better than most publishers, simply because their pre-war output was so fantastic. Plus, Penguin's founder, Alan Lane, had done all sorts of deals with the various paper authorities, and he would offer to like print stuff specifically for the forces, which would also give him a better paper ration overall. But it was mainly down to the massive sales of the earliest Penguin specials, and based on how well those were going, that was how much paper he got when things really started to bite. So that's how it worked. There we are. That was easily sorted, wasn't it, that particular one? Now we've got another oblong one, which is world shipping. So this one's okay. Looks like it's already had a bit of spine repair on it. Pretty scarce, these, as you would imagine. Quite dusty and dirty along the top. So it'll definitely benefit when we get round to giving it a brush in a while. Apart from that, though, it's all right. It's got a bit of... in all honesty, it's worse than I thought it was. I actually thought I had a slightly better copy of that. So I will keep my eyes peeled for a slightly cleaner one, because it has got quite a bit of foxing and stuff on, but it's still absolutely fine and presentable, and I'm not going to worry too much about that copy. Here's another one. It's the revised edition of it. So I don't generally collect reprints, but because I've got all the specials now, if it's something a little bit different, I will pick up a reprint, or in this case a revised edition, and that's what this one is. It's in nice condition as well. So yeah, the reprint from 2 years afterwards, 1943. There are people, and I sort of am one of them really, that do believe that even later wartime reprints are worth picking up with Penguin nowadays, even if they're not like a rare crime title or something, simply because of their rarity. Chances are the printing of that was even smaller than the original one, so how many have really survived, you know? That's okay. It's a little grubby, but as I said, I'm not looking for perfection on these. Food growing, storing and cooking. There was lots, of course, because of rationing, there was lots of books around sort of growing your own vegetables, keeping livestock and poultry and pigs and things like that. Anything to get us through the hard times during food rationing, and that was exactly what that was sort of aimed at. A special number 90. This is a real favourite of mine, number 91. It always makes me think of Dad's Army, signalling and map reading for the Home Guard. Absolutely fantastic title. That's brilliant. You can sort of imagine the Dad's Army sort of person absolutely poring over this book. Just superb. I love it. I love it. A great title. And this, believe it or not, no, this wasn't it. No, it's coming up later on. But this is a particularly scarce one because it's so thin. Look, it's almost like a pamphlet. But in actual fact, there is one even thinner. And that one we'll see in a little bit of time, a little while. On this video, though, was the very last Penguin special I had to track down. But this one is equally quite scarce. As you can see, there's just nothing to it. Which is why it's a toughie to find. Another very thin one here, one of the religious titles, of which there was a few in the Penguin specials. A few sort of religious tomes. Yeah, quite dusty. In fact, all of these are quite dusty along the top. They've never had the brushing treatment, and I've never been through them like I've been through them today. So this is a nice one. The French Canadians today. And the blue colour there into the title. But I remember when I started collecting penguins, the specials in particular absolutely fascinated me. It sort of went in, it tied in with my sort of fascination about learning the history of the Second World War. And these specials were just relics of that period. You know, this is published right in the height of the Blitz, a lot of these, and they've been through so much, and these relics coming out the other side are just fascinating to me. Really, really fascinating. So that one's obviously got a water ripple through, but there's nothing I can do about that, so no worries there. Let's put them to one side. Planning the war. That's okay. This one's actually in excellent condition. It's a bit of a more robust book, and it possibly came out a little bit earlier or a little bit later. September 41, so it's just a really nice copy of a wartime special, so that's pretty nice. It's unusual. Diary of World Affairs. Not every Penguin special number actually got released. There was some that were planned and they just never got published, and the number had already been assigned to them, so you can't have a complete unbroken run because they didn't all get used. That one's alright. This one I believe is quite scarce as well, Lay Farming. Another fairly difficult one to get your hands on. Just not many have survived. It's as simple as that, because copies that were sold, you know, they would have been used. They would have been they're practical books to be referred to. So finding them, yeah, sometimes in any condition is no small feat. That's why some of these I think are, yeah, really undervalued. Obviously, the amount of people actually interested in these is not massive, of course, but most Penguin collectors I know do collect Penguin specials because they're such an integral part of collecting vintage Penguins. There we are. That was alright. That was number 100, by the way, Reaching for the Stars. This is a very, very, very difficult one to get. I don't think it's the rarest, but this is one of the rarest. Keeping poultry and rabbits on scraps. Once again, because of its subject matter, the book would have been used and used and used and referred to, and consequently, copies these days, you know, if they ever sort of turn up, if the copies that are out there are probably in collections. They're not. This is not the sort of thing you're ever going to come across at a boot sale or in a charity shop. I just can't see it happening myself. But that one is just about complete. I think that's the second or third copy I've had of it. And that's amazingly the best copy I've had of it. I think the first one I had no covers at all. And for many years, that was the only sort of copy I had, completely coverless. Guerrilla Warfare, Yank Levy. This is another one that got a really nice edition in America. With a photo cover, but this is the British first one. I think it's like almost a hand-to-hand combat. Threat of invasion. You never know what was going to be around the corner, so that's why that one was published. And you can see how thin they're starting to get. There's another one. It's more like a leaflet. Speed the Plough. Another farming one. As I said, these are scarce. There's no two ways around it. There's just not lots of these around. (1942). The first one we've seen dated 42. But okay, it's alright. Another delicate little one. Christianity and Social Order, another one of the religious titles. I said they did publish a few. 1942 again. I mean, the paper is so thin now you can almost see through it, and that's just a reflection of the paper rationing really biting. British Way of Warfare. This is the revised edition of number 105. Bit more of a robust one, this, 1942. German Liberalism, 106. Robert Dickinson. This one's got quite a bit of foxing on. A little bit at the bottom of the page there, but any books from this sort of period, this is the key period. That one's dated 43, which I believe is the 43 and 44, I believe, are the worst years for paper rationing. But some series are affected by it more than others, you know. I don't know what sort of priority Penguin put on their paper ration, if they wanted to give like the fiction and crime a better book than the specials. I just don't know. This is 42. We may never know. Although Penguin obviously have massive archives. Quest for Security in New Zealand. This one's got a very... I don't know if the cover's actually off or it's hanging. Yeah, it's half off. So I need to be careful with this one. Yeah, very, very scarce. There we go. There's nothing we can really do about that because it's actually just sort of come away. So I'm not going to try and re-glue it down or anything like that. It's just too delicate. Okay, this is 109. Another religious title is Christ Divided. It's got a little 62 by the look of it in the corner. Bit of an unusual thing to find, but we'll grab that. It's okay. How Russia Prepared. One out. This one's got a slightly different feel to the cover. It was probably at different printers, and the Penguin books were printed right around the country in different places. Sometimes the same book will be printed in two separate places, so there's variations even on the first edition. Dictionary of Science. Not a bad copy again. I do believe, because in my early days of collecting Penguin books, I used to try and... I really, really loved the specials, so I did make a point when dealers' catalogues came out of pulling in all the specials that I could get my hands on. So consequently, some of these are like almost like collector's quality copies. Now, this is the second volume of Aircraft Recognition. See, there's a little bit at the top of the spine there to re-glue back in. But it did have a follow-up, as you can see. I said it was a massively popular book. This is the first from 1942, and it needs to be re-glued there as well. So I think what we'll do, I'm going to have to work some glue into that slot there and then glue the whole thing back in. So this is the first sort of major bit of gluing we've had to do today. We've just had little bits until now. But it's worth doing because the copy is absolutely gorgeous. A really nice copy of this one. I don't think any of the Aircraft Recognition books are scarce because they were such big sellers. But I think they're definitely scarce in nice condition. They were so popular, Penguin even published 4 hardbacks of R.A. Savilsny's Aircraft Recognition books. They're oblong. And it's Aircraft of the UK 1 and 2, and then Aircraft of the USA 1 and 2, and they are really, really good. I don't think I've actually shown those on the channel because they come under Penguin's Miscellaneous series, which is like, there's about 60 books which are like, they don't quite fit into any other series, so they were published as a Miscellaneous, a Q, and I haven't got all the Qs. I'm missing about, I don't know, 20, something like that. Some of them are really obscure. They're all odd sorts of shapes and stuff, but I will intend to get them all. And when I do, I'll obviously do a little video on them. Alright, I think just one more little bit should do the trick. And then this spine should go back perfectly. Just the old glue has come away. And that should also sort out our little bit of spine at the top there. Yeah, there we are. glue come out, just a tiny touch. That's okay, that's absolutely fine. Obviously that will take a bit of time to set, but it'll be good for good. Another copy of the second book of aircraft recognition. Now this is much more worn, so I wonder if this is a reprint as well. Yeah, this is the second printing, October 1942. So for the aircraft recognition books, I have got first and seconds of both of them, which is quite cool. Oh, cover detached on this particular one here, look, Modern Battle. So one of the things I like to do when I go through my Penguins, of course, is make a note of ones that I need to get better copies of. And this is the first one we've actually seen today, which is cover detached. Can't imagine it's going to be too difficult to get one, but it is in the tough period, shall we say, you know. But apart from the cover off, I think it's all right. Yeah, 1942. So the thing is, there's not really anything. I don't want to put a layer of glue down the spine there, or the inner front page, because it's just not going to be. It's just not worth it. So I'll carefully put it on there, and I think I'll probably pop that one into a comic bag, so it doesn't get any worse. And I'll pop it on my list of titles to upgrade. 114, which is the thing that Penguin collectors seem to do. Once they've completed their sets, they go on the almost endless task of upgrading them to better copies. And I think sometimes you have to draw the line. However, literally just this morning, before I pulled these books out, I did go into the collection, and I was swapping around a few Agatha Christie's that I got recently, and swapping my old sort of tatty copies for really nice, beautiful, unread, it seems, copies was a real joy, I tell you. Now this is the second selection, a third in fact selection of cartoons by Lowe that Penguin published, and I think this is the hardest one of all to get. But this copy is not bad by the look of it. A little bit of page edge browning. It has got some tape on the inside. There's some Magi tape, but apart from that, I think he's all right. I'm not going to be too worried about that one because it is a bit of a rarity. Diary of World Affairs, Marcel Hoden. Even the Field Marshal swears by Colnois dental cream. I guess that's toothpaste. Like a different world, isn't it? 80 years ago. That's all right. People in Production. An inquiry into British war production. Yeah, that's okay. It's got a little bit of writing on the second page rather than the first, which is unusual. Dated 25th of the 6th, 43. That may have been a previous owner's name, or when the person bought it. Whacking the camera there. Right. Okay. So that's the second wedge of those old books. Still pouring down with rain here. This is quite a nice one. Warfare by Words. It seems fairly robust. Only less than 100 pages, but quite a nice copy of that by the look of it. Yeah, it's lovely. Of course, a lot of these were published for Penguin. They were like originals, paperback originals. They didn't have any hardbacks prior to it. They were almost like extended magazine articles, some of these. But that was the whole point of the specials. It was a series that was designed to be for the books to be published at a very swift rate, without lots of red tape and to and froing and from the author and the publishers on the covers and that. They would just knock them out ASAP because they were topical. Coming up to a little run of books which some of them got re-released as Penguin handbooks later on, and vice versa. Young Citizen, A.E. Morgan, 120, that is, special 120. To give you an idea, they go up to about 200, my collection goes up to about number 260. So apart from all the books we're going to see today, we've got another box load to come, but a lot of them are 60s issues, so they're equally as fascinating. You know, they've got some great subjects, the early space race stuff, we've got Vietnam covered, got some good stuff to look forward to on the next batch of specials that we've got to come. In another month's time, I would think we'll do the final batch. Is tomorrow's Hitler's. Well, these were the questions that were worrying the British National back in 1942. It was still very unclear if the Allies were going to win. What about business? What about it indeed? Another very thin little volume, that. What the Church Teaches. This is barely 70 pages, that one there. Bishop of Bradford. People's War, another thin one. 96 pages, this one. But nice condition, all of these. I've got to say, I'm pretty pleased with these. They're in great shape for their age. This is the one. Once again, I had a coverless copy of this for about a decade until I finally got one, and it was reasonably priced. It was only about £12. I think nowadays this wartime good housekeeping cookery book it's a real collectible, and I think I've seen copies go for about £50 on eBay. So if you ever come across this particular one, particularly if it's all there, then you're doing very well, because it's just such a scarce one. Yeah, I'm sure mine was about £10 or £12 on eBay, and I thought my copy was coverless, so as I said, it had no front cover, but it did have its back cover, so I was pleased to get it. See, this one's got a few turned over pages, but that's a small price to pay for what is a real rare book, this one. Ridiculously, I know, but it's just down to the subject matter, and you can imagine, you know, it's a cookbook. You know, cookbooks were bought to be used, and this is a wartime cookbook. It's got tiny paper. You find a cookbook from 5 years ago, it's usually thumbed and it's greasy and it's not being looked after. Finding any sort of complete copy of that is rare. Here we are. This is obviously the subject that was on everyone's mind back then, is venereal disease in Britain. So just the thing to have handy. One for the completists, I guess. Beautiful copy of that. The pride of my collection, of course. One by a rather famous author, H.G. Wells. He wrote a few Penguin specials. They're all originals. These are H.G. Wells originals. This had never come out anywhere else. So if you collect H.G. Wells, as many people do, he's a collectible author, you need the copy of these specials. So they're also worth tracking down. Argument of Empire. Okay, got a bit of a creased cover there. Soviet Light on the Colonies. This is quite worn, this one, so I'm going to put this on the upgrade list just on first appearances alone. Apart from that, he's alright, but the cover it's tantalisingly near coming off. You know, one sneeze and it's going to go. So we're not going to do anything else with that, because it is at least complete. But I need to be very careful. And this is one of the ones that, it's a special, you see a special one, 132, but it's in the Penguin Handbook sort of library. So these did get reprinted as dedicated Penguin Handbooks, almost identical, but with like a reprint note inside to say first published as a Penguin special, which is what this one is. And this guy here, Raymond Bush, he had lots of books published by Penguin, and they're all sort of similar. And we've got a few more to see before the video is out. 137, the next Germany. There we are. It's got the, just love these Mars bar adverts at the back. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So this one asks the question, are New Order or Hitler's? Phyllis Bottom. Oh, Phyllis. There we are. I've got to say, this particular run that we've had, they've all been pretty nice nick. Although saying that, just as I put that back, I see that the top of the spines there has come away. So since we're here, let's get that bit glued back in. Should be fairly easy. Just put a smear of glue in there like that. Push it in there. And then pull the excess off. There we are. Stop it getting any worse there. See, now that I've changed my board to the black, you can see every little bit that's fallen out of these books. Here's another scarce one, How the Jap Army Fights. So, Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, and they were now very much in the war. 1943. There we are. Quite a scarce one, that one. A.J. Evans, Why Not Prosperity? Now, is that the same A.J. Evans who wrote The Escaping Club, I wonder? I wonder if it's got anything about the author. Be interesting, wouldn't it? A.J. Evans, yeah, look at that. He was captured by the Germans in 1916, but escaped and wrote The Escaping Club, which has been published by Penguin Books, series number 202. There it is. It was the same A.J. Evans. I never knew he had a special as well. There you go. See, always learning. Here's another one by Raymond Bush. This is the second volume of Tree Fruit Growing. Every scrap of green during the war had something in it. You know, even if it was just a crop of potatoes, it was being used for something. Preserves for all occasions, very, very popular. It still is to this day, in fact. You know, so there's lots of wild berries around the UK. Don't need to go too far to find them. And people were preserving their own strawberries and raspberries and all sorts back then. Making marmalades and jams. Country and Town. This has got the bottom of the spine there is actually gone. So it's not ideal. So I think I will glue that little bit, that little flap in there to stop it disappearing. But quite not ideal. I think once again I'm going to put this one on my list to upgrade. So number 140, sorry, 139 I should say. It says 139 and the other one said 139, so it's probably, there's all sorts of mistakes on the special, so I'm going to need to look at my master list. But regardless, Country and Town is one that I'm going to put on the old upgrade list, because he's not quite good enough for the main run. And as you can see, on the whole, this run of specials is not too bad at all. Okay, another handbook here. Rabbit farming. Not something I would ever want to be doing, but back then it was an easy meat to get, so that's why it was done. 1944 now. Another little religious one here. We are coming up to near the end of the wartime releases. 141. (142) Our settlement with Germany. 1944, this one. It's not a bad copy of that either. That's quite nice. India Since Crips, 143. It's got a little £2.50 in. It's got a stamp dated 1975. So I wonder where that 1975 stamp has originated from, you know? You never can tell. So we've got a few more Penguin handbooks here, which were released as specials. So poultry farming. Trees and shrubs. $1944 again. Great stuff. 145. Vegetable Growers Handbook Volume 1. This would have been the one I would have been most interested in, I think, because I enjoy growing my own veg. And then Volume 2 was the very next one. This is much more worn than the first volume. So once again, this one's got wet at some point. It's all water rippled. Not awful, I've seen worse, but it's still not great. So once again, since I've got these out, I'm going to put this one here, 147, on my list of ones to upgrade. This was the last special that I got, and you can see why. Look, it's literally, it hasn't actually even got a spine. So it's special 148. Plan of Economic Development for India. It's incredibly scarce, this one. And it was the very last one I needed to finish my set. So I was very pleased to get it. Published in May 1944. First published in India in January 44. So if you ever come across that, I think it's supremely rare. Once again, I got that at a reasonable price. I think I paid about £12 for it, which I was over the moon to pay, since it was like the last one. Here's another really good one here on looking at the Welsh miners. Quite a highly regarded book, this one, and it's apparently well worth a read as well. I've had a couple of copies through my hands. This is just after This is a just after anniversary present. Lisa. December the 3rd, 1945. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? £2.50 inside, so we got rid of that one. Lend-Lease. Still a wartime issue, this. Got the last few wartime ones. So some people just collect the wartime issues, but I found that the later ones were equally as fascinating because it was a different sort of period in time, you know. TVA. Little bits falling off these. They don't take a lot of handling, I tell you. You've got to be really careful with these. Now, this one is the right number, 152, but as you can clearly see, it's from another era entirely. But this is like the second series, but the numbering is correct. So this is from 1963. So it's numerically it's correct, but it's completely in the wrong place. And then we got 153. It's the very next one numerically again, but we're back to the old 1940s titles. So there's a slight crossover. But as I said, I do collect the later ones, so they're all of interest to me. Politics Made Plain, 154. And I did fill a box completely with these. That's why we're seeing a lot of books today. But we won't be polishing in any of them. I'm just going to finish these off in a minute with the good old brush. 155, France, the birth of the Fourth Republic. The Tail End War title here. 1944, December 44. It's got a little bit of writing inside as well, this one. It's very, very faint, so someone's already had a go at rubbing them out. But they didn't do a perfect job. And also, I can see, and this is very, very delicate, but over here they've got 2 marks as well in pencil, which I'm going to grab. There we go. Yes, Delicate City, that one. And here's the next one. So I think that might have been the final, like, wartime one, was that one, France, because then we're on to the very next one numerically, 156, and I think here we're going to be jumping, correctly in time here to February 49. So yeah, we've jumped forward a few years. 157, huge one here, keeping the old Penguin special alive. Very interesting to see this little between series. October 49, huge book. 158. So these are all correct numerically. These are the next ones in the numbered sequence. But this is 1951, so we've gone forward another couple of years there. Attitude to Africa. Obviously no signs of paper rationing now. 1951 again. The Communist Technique in Britain, number 160. Wow. Interesting title. I suppose these books will become, historical documents in time. Another religious title, Kingship of Christ. So this was the home for those, because there wasn't a religious list within Penguin, not in any other series. 162, Peaceful Coexistence. Lovely. Yeah, so as I said, I've got a full run of not all the Penguin specials, but there are some of the later ones which have got ISBNs, which is a little bit past. I don't like to pick up Penguins with ISBNs. I sort of use the end of ISBNs, or the introduction of ISBNs rather, as my cut-off point. So, but there are a few that are just really, really great titles. Like the Apollo moon landings, for example, was a special, which is, I just don't want to not have them. I think there's another one which is actually, we won't see it in this video, but there's some which are large format. I've got a book on Vietnam, like a pictorial Vietnam, which I believe is a special as well. So those are going to have to come when we do large format books down the line. Last few here now, spotlight on Asia. But next time round, when we look at the specials, we'll do all the 1960s ones right the way through to the end, of which there's another big run of them. So and some great titles. But these are all pretty nice copies. And the last one before we get brushing is Peace Possible, special 166. Yeah, they're all pretty nice. Lovely. So that's all the books cleaned, sorted and tidied as best we can. Next job then is to give them their brush off. Right, we'll just give these a careful brush off, and we are going to need to be a bit careful on some of these because the books are quite delicate, as we've seen. So I'm not going to go crazy, but at the same time, these are of a vintage that they probably have picked up quite a bit of dust in the many years that they've been on the shelves. So I'm sure these are really going to benefit quite a bit from a good clean and brush. As you can see, lots coming off that really beaten up copy at the bottom. blimey. Yes, particularly bad that second printing, but hey ho, it's alright. Yeah, an awful lot come off that particular one because it was really, really dirty. But there you go, these things happen. Now these are a bit more unusual, so let's carefully give these edges a yes, a few dirty books there. The level of dust and dirt coming off these, even though we've only just done a little handful, is really quite something. They're not all awful, but a lot of them are pretty awful. But I think we've identified a few that I can upgrade, and that'll definitely be worth doing. Get rid of some of these very, very fragile ones and get slightly more robust copies. I almost feel with these I ought to be wearing a mask at some points doing some of these because they're that sort of dirty, you know. But there's the first of 4 stacks, and there was, boy oh boy, there was some dirty books in there. Or dusty, not dirty, they were dusty. They're not dirty, we've cleaned them as best we can. But you know, out of that little run of 5, you just see there's 1 or 2 that are really quite rough, and these are the ones that are going to benefit most from having a really good clean. And a brush. Well, the rain never let up the entire time I've been in here, so sorry about that, but it's not like a big thunderstorm, is it? So I hope it just blended in to me waffling on about my Penguin specials. But, you know, as you might have detected, I am a real fan of these old books, and as I said, I do find them absolutely fascinating little relics from a period of time when, you know, publishers were lucky to get any books published, let alone anything with like a big print run and on such popular topics. quite a bit of dust on these. Not sure if it'll be easier to do them in bigger pinches or not really, but we'll give it a try. Because the books are so floppy, they sort of need to be in bigger hands, as it were. I think it was a little easier with a bit more in my hand. Okay, that's the first two stacks. Stack number 3. So theoretically these should be a little bit easier because they're not as delicate, they're not from such a delicate period of time. But, you know, we still need to take care, don't we? You can see they're all sort of different sorts of sizes, you know, that it's just how they were produced. As I said, it was under wartime conditions, they were produced at different printers, and things were often rushed, and you know, we just made do. They weren't as beautiful as Penguin would like, but they were just getting the books out. Lovely. Get the next little hand here. Okay, last pile of part number 3 here. Lovely. So the last little pile now. So, well, I do hope you've enjoyed looking through these old Penguin specials as much as I have. I haven't had these out for quite a long time, 2-3 years since I've had these out. I've got to admit, I'm really pleased to have been able to give them the treatment, as it were, so they look a lot better than they did before we started. I'm sure you'll agree, particularly if you were in the room with me now, you'd see what a huge difference it has made to these books. As always, if you have enjoyed the video, do please give it the thumbs up. Lots and lots more Penguin content on my main channel, where we look at the books in a bit more detail and give a bit of history on them, rather than just admiring them and cleaning them. And they're very well broken down into lots of different videos and series and stuff like that. So whatever you might fancy, there's plenty to see. Next week is going to be vintage pan books. We're going to still working our way through our great pan collection. So we got a few more, another sort of 80 great pans to get through. So that'll be next week's video. And I'll do the last batch of these Penguin specials in about a month's time, and that'll be all those late 1950s into the 60s ones, until the series sort of, at least for me, came to an end. It did carry on and had some sort of sporadic release. It has occasionally been revived, but nothing to shout about in my opinion. But yeah, we'll do more great pans next week. Obviously, if you've not already subscribed, do please hit that subscribe button. We do regular videos once a week, every Saturday, and it'd be great if you could watch every one. And if not, go back and watch the playlist, as it were. We've got about 1.5 years worth of content on here now, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I hope you have enjoyed it. And I shall look forward to seeing you again next Saturday with another video.